Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So good to see you. So good to see you this morning. We're going to be working or taking a look at we're going to be taking a look at Advanced 5e today again. I decided I've got some Pathfinder cards to unpack, and ordinarily sometimes I like to use Sunday for kind of a potpourri day, but I've only got one deck of cards. And so I was thinking, maybe I just get some more decks and then we make that a whole day. So those are sitting over there. And also I showed people yesterday that I did get Starfinder, the Starfinder box set. People have been asking about that. So we may unbox Starfinder next week and see what it is all about. I've got coffee ready this morning. Let's see who we got here. Let's breathe and sip. Rhino Watcher is here. Good to see you. Toadstool Hollow is here. Stray is here. Vision, good morning. Oh, my internet's been acting funny since I shot down that balloon. What about that? I haven't been. I don't follow the news nearly as closely as especially I used to, as in years ago and things like that. But I was seeing there was something else that was shot down over Alaska in territorial waters over Alaska or something like that. And so that's why I guess I'd seen like UFO is trending and stuff like that. I saw things about sending out like the the Black Knight Squadron from Independence Day out there to take care of something flying over Alaska. Crazy. Okay, so let's breathe and sip. Deep inhale, complete exhale twice, then go to your favorite beverage. Well, another one this morning? Oh, well, I am gonna have to check that out then. It was yesterday that I was watching something on the Geo Now channel about a briefing about something being shot down over Alaska. So, man, things are getting crazy. Then I'll have to check that out. I did yesterday. I didn't spend as much time in core creative time as I wanted to yesterday, and that's because I did put together a video on the Kyle Brink situation, and I put that out. I put the link out just to the channel members yesterday because it's a sensitive subject. But so I wanted to get some additional feedback on. Oh, this was in Canada. Vision is saying. Well, I want to check in on this. But I put out the link to the channel members. So if you are a channel member, then if you check the community tab, I think it is, you'll see a members only post that has a link to my Kyle Brink discussion. And it's a longer video, but I thought that I don't want to just keep talking about it because unless he comes on and provides additional clarification either on somebody else's channel about a lot of things, or he comes on, agrees to come on my channel and do an interview, I don't really see a point in continue talking about it. Some people did bring up a couple of points. There might be like a follow-up video on it. But if you're a channel member, you can go over there and you can see what I was saying about Kyle Brink, and then I'll get some additional feedback and make sure that it is a reasonable position and a one that advances the discussion, and quality of online conversation. That would be my goal anyway. And then after that, I will turn it live and public, unless I need to make some adjustments or something like that. So that's where I am with that. I don't see a whole lot of need to continue to talk about it constantly though. All right, so what else is going on? Oh yeah, I've got so tonight. I think I keep saying that I've got this dinner meeting. It was a lunch meeting, now it's a dinner meeting. It's flopped around all over the place over the past couple of days because of scheduling. So I've got that tonight at 5:30 Central. I do want to do a Crafter's Corner tonight because I'm still trying to attack certain subjects and getting them done. And one of the things I want to get done is getting all of the miniatures painted up for a Hero Quest Elf Pack and Hero Quest Advanced Hero Quest for a complete, that would be all the miniatures necessary for a complete second season of Dinner and a Board Game. And so I want to be able to get that done, get all the miniatures done. There'll still be a bit more crafting that's got to be done, but there's different ways to live. I work for an hour and a half each day on a variety of different projects, or sometimes I just got to hammer these different projects. I've been trying to hammer the beat sheet for Tales of Rabavania because I have an important meeting on the Tales of Rabavania story tomorrow. And I would like to, have basically that beat sheet completely done. So I'm planning as soon as I get done with this to definitely turn off the internet for about 5 hours and see if I can work on the Rabavania beat sheet for its story and get that done or very, very close so that we'll have a good discussion tomorrow. And that would be fantastic to get that done. Hey, Zero the Blade, good to see you. Good morning. All right, let's bring this up. I think what happened is that we were about to get into combat, and we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the beginning and take a look at races or heritages or whatever it is they call them here. Heritages here. We'll take a look at those and the classes at the end when we go through creating a character. But we had just about gotten to... we were going through adventuring. No, yeah, adventuring. Okay, so we had just gone to between adventures, and I believe we were just about to start combat and turn-based action. So I think that's where we were. So let's see what's going on in combat here. So, all right, this is when we get into turn-based actions, initiative rounds, Okay, surprise roll initiative. All right, let's start with turn order and rolling initiative so we understand how we're doing this right here. All engagements using turn-based action consist of 2 phases, setup and initiative rounds. The setup phase establishes... Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, get back to work, slacker. Yes, all right. I feel properly admonished. Thank you, Millmaster. Yep, I'll be back to work. I'll be back to work trying to get... I've gotten completely off of my schedule. I've got to get back on it. I also want to get the weight loss done. So thank you, Millmaster. Thank you very much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. I was going to say, this is episode 100. This is actually the 100th episode. So it would have been nice if I'd had something like to release or something like that, like the Rabavania, more Rabavania stuff or something like that. So I didn't quite make that target. But this is the 100th episode. So this is a very significant milestone in Morning Grind. This is the 100th episode of Morning Grind, which was shot in just over 100 days because around the holidays when I was traveling and stuff, we missed it. But this is episode 100. So congratulations. Hey, let me take another sip to you guys. Thank you very much for being here throughout this journey. Didn't want that to go long, 100 episodes to go by without being noticed. All right, so surprise. If any characters intend to act before all participants are aware of the encounter, the narrator calls for an ability check to determine if any combatants are surprised. And then roll initiative. The remaining participants roll initiative and determine the turn order. Initiative rounds. World actions. If the environment features any world bonuses or penalties with an active element, it occurs at the start of the round before any participants take their turn. On your turn, the character moves and uses their available actions. Off your turn, the inactive characters plan their next turn and prepare to react to the active character's actions. End of round. When everyone has taken their turn, the initiative round repeats at step 1 until the encounter has concluded. Setting the scene. The narrator establishes the conditions of any turn-based encounter. This includes the known participants and their positions, and active elements. Yeah, you know what? That's what was going through my mind just as I was reading this, because I got to come up with an initiative system here for initiative system and combat system for Fated Edge. And I've talked about how much I do like the Hackmaster system, and I think we need to look at that in greater detail because it's because of the simultaneous play and how it keeps everybody active and you're not waiting a whole lot. But I don't think that's appropriate for the style of game that Fated Edge is going to be. But it sure would be great if we could incorporate something like that, some type of simultaneous movement or like declaration of actions into that so that you're not just waiting around the table. So when I'm looking at this, like the active player moves and uses their available actions. So we're going to look at how it distinguishes. So it looks like it's distinguishing movement from actions. But what if you didn't have to use all of your actions on a single turn? This is what came up in my mind as I was talking about this right here. What happens if those characters, what if you didn't have to use all of your actions? Like there's a 3-action economy in Pathfinder. What if on your turn, rather than waiting for somebody to use all 3 actions, they used 1, and then you sent it to somebody else who got to do 1. So there was a round here, but we need another word for going around the table 3 times before everybody resets. You'd have to come up with some type of way to adjudicate actions that were taking more than 1 round, or, would take more than 1 action to complete. But I think you could do that. You would start some action that would require 2, and then you'd finish that when it comes up to your next turn. So that would be a way maybe to get everybody to be doing turn-based, so you're not trying to do some type of simultaneous thing, but you're only doing a fraction of something on your turn, and then it's moving to somebody else, and they're doing something, and then somebody else does something. And so maybe something would move faster. I think I want to try that. Thank you. Congratulations, Vision is saying. This is a major milestone. So, okay, so end of round. When everyone has taken their turn, the initiative round repeats at step 1 and until the encounter is concluded. A round encompasses the semi-simultaneous actions of the players within a period of the game world. For example, 1 round is usually 6 seconds. In other cases, A round might take 10 seconds, 1 minute, or 10 minutes as deemed appropriate by the narrator. All right, so surprise. How are we adjudicating surprise? The party lurks in the shadows of the cult's ritual, looking for the right moment to cut it short. A sneaky athlete sprints ahead before the start of the race, and the other racers catch on. A noble suddenly draws her sword and lunges at the king. If some participants are unaware of others due to successful attempts to be stealthy, they begin the encounter surprised. The narrator calls for the appropriate ability checks to determine whether the participants are aware of each other. Surprised creatures are unable to move or take an action on their first turn and are unable to use reactions. So we also have reactions going on until after their first turn. Sometimes all participants are aware of each other at the beginning of an encounter, but one side takes an action or launches an attack while the other's guard is down. In this case, no one is surprised, but the narrator may allow the instigating creature or party to roll initiative with advantage. If nobody is trying to be sneaky, combat begins normally with initiative as described below. The hidden attacker. If you are hidden from your target, you gain advantage on your first attack against it. After your first attack roll, unless you are invisible or the target is otherwise unable to see you, you are no longer hidden. Okay, so how are we doing initiative? Rhino Watcher says, OD&D distinguished phases within rounds. For example, spells went off at the end of the round, but you could move at the top. One I need to look back on is that the different phases also reminds me of Against the Dark Master. Against the Dark Master has several different phases. And at first, I thought it seemed complicated, but it actually might not be. Actually, when I was going through and reading, I was like, well, maybe that's not so bad. But that kind of thing, well, where spells go off, where certain spells go off, or where missiles go off, whether or not you were preparing them, like, and aiming in the last turn and things like that. So that could be something to look at again. It was based on wargaming. Like a shooting phase in Warhammer is when guns go off, but a melee phase happens on a different phase, so you can strike, get out of the way for troops to shoot. Yes. So maybe suddenly I'm thinking more about like what they call the popcorn initiative system, where if you had these different sub-units of action, then you could do something like that. This person moves, then it's going to go to this other person to make an attack and so forth. And what is that? How is that different from just saying that everybody gets one action on their turn? I guess that's another way that you could just handle it. Maybe that way is simpler. Instead of trying to say you got 3 actions on your turn, you can move and then you can just do one thing. Maybe you could just do one thing on your turn. I guess that's one way to handle it. Then that everything would be faster than that. Everything would move faster. But I suppose the initial thought was then, well, what if some things take longer than one action? If you're still going through 3 actions and a reaction before you reset, you have something else to think about. But it might be simpler just to say, hey, you can do one thing on a turn. I don't know. Millmaster says, what was that system that had a half round and quarter round actions? I don't remember. I don't know. Zero the Blade says passive perception of 25 plus seems too good not to have. Passive perception of 25 plus seems too good not to have with surprise rounds. Rhino Watcher says OD&D balanced spellcasters with melee by making spells go off at the end of the round, and it failed if you were attacked. You needed melee characters to defend your caster. And, if you did have some things, would need a different word, but some different activity that can take place over multiple actions, then you could have a system like that. Make sure that the character is defended. Because we've got some number of rounds, I have to get the terminology clear, before something goes off. And my problem traditionally has been, especially with casters, if you're going to have actions or spells that take more than one round to cast, if the gameplay at the table is just taking a long time, then that can be a negative to playing a caster, because you just don't want to give up your turn. By the time it finally comes back around to the table, the table comes around to you, you want to do something. But if you're moving much quicker, you get to do one thing anytime you come up, then maybe it's not so bad to say, all right, I'm still casting. I'm starting to cast this spell. It'll go off next round. Maybe you don't. Maybe you still feel engaged, because the feeling and the psychology of that's important too. Lancelot's Cart says, Rhino Watcher, exactly. First declare actions, then determine initiative, then missile fire from each side, then movement, then melee, then spells. See, and I think that the declare actions is important up there at the first. I would like to try that, because, I did simultaneous. I like some parts of simultaneous action. I just think that the whole Packmaster initiative system isn't right for what I'm currently trying to do. But when I did War of Kings, which was the first board game that I did, we've got simultaneous construction phase, simultaneous. That was the big deal, because it was taking too long for everybody to take their turn and try to build something for their kingdom. So we just did it simultaneously. If everybody declared actions simultaneously, all right, now is the time to declare your action. And then you're getting to take one of these actions, or let's say declare 3 actions. So you've got 3 actions and a reaction. So declare what those are going to be, possibly with something, a card or something like that. So you know what your available options are going to be over the next 3 times that your turn comes up. Now you just have to pick from what's in front of you. Okay, your turn. Do one of those things. Okay, I'm doing this one. That would let everybody prevaricate, but at least everybody's prevaricating together and doing all of their analysis during the declaration phase. And then so everybody does that together. And then when your actual turn comes up to do something, maybe it moves faster. I'd want to experiment with something like that. In 3.5, most summoning spells go off at the start of the next round, and lost if you get hit and fail concentration. Catching up at 4x speed. Welcome, Micah. Mill says, so every character thinks about what they're going to do, and then some things take time. Makes more sense. Yeah, I want to try that. Because I was talking, when we were talking to Mark, we were saying that everything is a trade-off. And even though I like the highly tactical combat as well, I also like the more narrative, people call it, the theater of the mind. I'm thinking this needs to be more of a theater of the mind type game. It's difficult to me. It's difficult to bring those two things together. So just try to come up with, we're playing in a more narrative way, try to come up with the best way to do that. And the game side of things, like keeping things moving, is important. Okay, so initiative. The initiative steps the order of everyone's turn through the encounter. Each participant makes an ability check to determine their place in the initiative count, from the highest check total to the lowest. This ability check is typically dexterity. The narrator might determine that one or more participants should instead roll a different ability check, potentially utilizing a different skill or tool. See table types of initiative. In the event of a tie, the tied participants each roll a d20 to determine the order amongst themselves. The highest roll goes first. Okay, if any creature has already made an ability check during that surprise step, they use that existing score for initiative. Types of initiative. Spotting a hidden threat, wisdom. Strength, athletics would be climbing a cliff during a landslide. These are types of initiative. We're going to make a check, and we're starting from the highest check to the lowest. So charisma would be being unassuming before suddenly taking an action. Wisdom would be noticing that an unassuming participant is about to take an action. Dexterity, land vehicles, would be participating in a wagon race. Okay, well, so I guess this goes even further. We were talking last time about how we should decouple skills from ability scores, which I like, and it's something that I think that's actually the way that 5e is supposed to go, and it just wasn't as well developed as it could be. There's like a small thing in a sidebar about that, but it's still there, that you can use skills with whatever ability score. They're not tied to ability score. This one has made this very explicit. So I guess this is going even further than that and saying that even something like initiative could be based on other things. What were we looking at just the other day? I looked at so many things I can't even remember. We were looking at something the other day where, like, the fighters, the fighting skill actually made you go faster in initiative. which I thought was great because ordinarily it's like a rogue sneaking around or something like that. But hey, if you're a trained fighter, then you're able to respond more quickly in combat and attack first. I think that also makes sense. Okay, so Micah says, just came across your mention of the idea about doing part of a round per entity. That is exactly how the Farad system does this in its 4th alpha because it would speed up gameplay and justify it if someone tried to counter something that took longer. Okay, I need to look this up because this has come up a lot too. I don't know this. Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up because that sounds like something Google wants me to correct that to the Fate system, which is not what we're on. So let me just make note of that over here. Because that sounds like something we need to look at on the morning grind. I've seen it come up, but I don't know anything about it. Micah also says 2 free actions, 5 quick actions, which can be combined, use on a phase or as a reaction. 2 reactions max per round. So 2 free actions, 5 quick actions, and 2 reactions max per round. You know, I was just thinking about the idea that, well, what if you just, do you have to work with this 3-action economy? Can you be saying that, could you just say you get to do one thing? You get to do one thing. When your turn comes up, you get to do one thing, and let's move fast. It could be movement. It could be making attack. It could be something else. You get to do one thing. But that doesn't itself stop there from being some actions which are going to take you more than one, the terminology, more than one turn to accomplish. Because you could just be looking at something and say, this is a 4-round action. And so I'm starting it right now. And as long as the turns are moving fast enough, that wouldn't even limit you to 3. Because if you're working explicitly within a 3 action economy, you wouldn't have things that took more than 3 actions, which would be three turns. But why not? I mean, maybe it's unusual, but then you could have 4-round or 5-round kinds of actions or something like that. Oh, so this is what you're developing? Oh, okay. So, okay. Because I get to see, because what came up was the Farad system is the RPG I'm working on that's finally gained a new name. So that's you. Okay, because a Deviant art page comes up. Okay, well then, we look at stuff that people make here on the channel. So when you're ready, maybe it's something that we can look at, Micah. Rhino says, seems like this makes too many ways to determine initiative on this one. With an inflationary hit point system, those who go first does not usually matter in the long run. I think that's true too. I'd rather make it a bit more significant because I wouldn't use inflationary hit points. But on the other hand, this does sound like a bit like, well, hey, everybody use what you're best at. Now, not all of these will always apply, but that, hey, initiative could be based on a bunch of different things that you might happen to be good at. I would prefer it. So, if there's some kind of reason why I can use my best score. But on the other hand, the initiative roll is still a D20, and your charisma, your wisdom, your insight, your bonuses use the standard D&D scale. So they're small. So initiative would still seem to be very random because the D20 is probably overwhelming these bonuses for the most part. And then 2, you're right that if everybody's got 60 hit points, who actually went first isn't as significant as it would be. And if you could die on the first hit. Mill says, I like the one thing choice. And then when your turn comes around and you pick to move, you might modify to charge or drop prone, but you can't say start casting a spell or ranged attack. Yeah. And maybe something like that, I think would be what you do. There needs to be some kind of default thing. So, or maybe, that'd probably be easier. Everybody declares their choice. What are they going to do this round? They put one card in front of them, but then you can always default back to a move or something like that. So if you are trying to attack and the thing dies, and you can't reach something else, you can always make a default move or something like that. I'm going to think a lot more about that. Maybe that's something we can talk about. Maybe if I have time, I can write something up and then we can talk about it on Tuesdays. Okay, so world actions. A raging storm howls and a bolt of lightning splits the ground in front of the adventurers. Souls lost to the sea manifest amid the fervor and the fish competition, amid the fervor of the fishing competition for another chance to catch the perfect catch. The battlefield itself can be as active a participant in the turn-based actions as the characters are, and its actions can have serious consequences for everyone involved. Some world bonuses and penalties have an effect that activates with the initiative count. These world actions occur at the start of each round before any participants act. The narrator determines if any of these participants are within the range of these effects and adjudicates the actions accordingly. The world bonuses and penalties section later in this chapter provides more details and examples of the world actions. On your turn. When it's your turn, you can move a distance up to your speed and take your actions, plural. Your actions, plural. You can declare your intent for any turn in any order, breaking up your movement between actions and using your bonus action first. You can also choose to do absolutely nothing. Within a single round, you can take an action, a bonus action, and any free actions, like communicating with allies, dismissing the effect of the thaumatology cantrip you've already cast, or interacting with an object. During your turn, and one reaction at any time. The rules for actions and movements are found in the action and movement section later. Okay. So that's a lot of stuff, but that seems like 5th edition. You can take an action, a bonus action, and free actions. Off your turn. You're still an active participant in turn-based action even when it's not your turn. You have a number of responsibilities to keep track of within an encounter in between taking actions. Plan your actions so you're ready when your turn comes. Creatures who carry long lists of spells especially have a lot of options to manage, and you might not want to spend your precious 6 seconds flipping through a book. Yeah, that's always, to me, that's always an issue. Pay attention to the encounter beyond events, actually, and getting people out of the book. We've talked about that quite a bit, about that being elegance in an RPG system, that the more that you don't have to consult the book, the better. But spellcasting seems to always be a thing, something you got to reference a book. Now, I think it was Dungeon Crawl Classics where the heroes moved faster. The fighters could move faster, which seemed to make sense. That's the one we were looking at most recently, Dungeon Crawl Classics. I was talking to somebody about Dungeon Crawl Classics, how I was excited about it. And but what we brought up is that, man, now you got to look at all these tables for all the spells, because each spell had a different table. But on the other hand, a lot of times you got to flip to a part of a book, assuming you're playing physically. But if you're not, you still bring up the section of the spell. I mean, a lot of the time, even when you're playing a wizard, when you cast a spell, what do? You open the book to that page, right? So if you've already gone to the trouble to opening the book to that page, having a cool table to roll on seems to be an advantage to me. You spent the time to look it up in the rule book anyway. So might as well have a neat table to roll on. Micah says, yeah, on DeviantArt, this is the first and second alpha stuff. Blogspot is the second and third alpha stuff. And the Wikidot is the third alpha as well. Fourth alpha is on my dev Discord server for a rollout of information. Okay, well, cool. I like doing stuff. So pay attention to the encounter beyond the events that involve you. The priorities of you and your allies can change in the blink of an eye, and the actions you are planning can become inappropriate for the task. Be prepared to use your reaction. Reactions have specific conditions that can occur at any time, and you don't want to let a golden opportunity escape your grasp. End of round. Once all participants have taken their turn, the encounter returns to the start of a new round. The loop persists until the action concludes, and the granularity of the turn-based action system is no longer needed. So let's see. Where does the action happen? Every gaming group has a preference for depicting what happens in the game world, especially during turn-based action scenarios. The action might be better served by visual granularity or simple enough to paint a picture with words alone. The following are common types of styles of play. Abstract. The current location is broken up into 2 or more notable landmarks, sometimes represented by index cards or a small visual aid. Participants can move their miniature token to one of these areas, allowing them to directly interact with other participants located there as well. Grid, square, or hex. The location is represented by a grid. Each space typically represents 5 feet. Participants, represented by miniatures or tokens, move space by space. Okay. Or a theater of the mind. Players maintain their own mental map. Okay, so that's what that's about. I thought this said sneezing. So we've got something about how large things are on the map. Movement. So now, see here we got movement. It does seem like they put a lot of different material for the same kind of things in different headings in this game, because we already looked at like climbing and swimming. But here is climbing and swimming, gliding, hovering, and burrowing, flying. Mounted combat. You have half cover on saving throws and ability checks made against melee attacks. You have disadvantage on ability checks to leap off the creature you're riding. If you're knocked prone, you make a DC 10 dexterity saving throw or fall off prone in the space adjacent to the creature you're riding. All right. Being prone. Falling down on the ground is often a consequence of action, but it can be an effective strategy in the heat of the moment when bolts of lightning whiz past overhead. You can drop prone without using any movement. You can also drop prone as a reaction to being targeted by a ranged attack you can see. While you are prone, your only movement is to crawl 1 foot of movement, or 1 foot costing 1 more. Standing up requires half your movement. Disadvantage on all melee rolls. An attack roll made against you is made with advantage if the attacker is within 5 feet. Otherwise, it's made with disadvantage. Okay, so attacking back to back, attacking from above. If you are at least 5 feet above your target and you aren't grappled or restrained, you gain an expertise die on melee attacks against it. Okay, so we've got the expertise die if you are attacking from above. Back to back, when you are adjacent to an ally, you can use a bonus action to stand back to back. While back to back with an ally, it's harder to be caught off guard and you can't be flanked. As long as neither of you or your ally move, your passive perception is increased by 2 until the start of your next turn when one of you moves. Spellcasting can be a challenge if you don't write the damage dice and type on your sheet. And yeah, sometimes that's all you need, right? I mean, you don't have to look it up all the time. But sometimes for just basic attack spells, once you've gotten that down, you need to know your bonus to roll and then what type of damage dice and type of damage it is. Micah says, for D&D 5e, I kind of like the spellbook cards for planning only what I've got. For planning only what I've got, and then quick reference. I should have had some cards. I haven't actually used the spell cards, but I like cards. Dragging an ally. When adjacent to a willing ally, you can use your reaction to grab them by the hand and pull them along with your movement, even if you've already expended all of theirs. While doing so, every foot of movement costs you an additional 2 feet of movement, and the ally cannot use their reaction. This movement provokes attack of opportunities as normal. Flanking. When you and one ally are on direct opposite sides of a target, you gain an expertise die on your actions against the target. You and your ally cannot flank for one another if either of you is incapacitated. If you are not using a grid for combat, flanking instead occurs when 3 or more creatures are attacking the same creatures in melee. So our actions in combat include attacking, casting a spell, dash, which doubles your speed, disengage. When you take the disengage action, you take a defensive guarded retreat, and your movement does not provoke an attack of opportunity during that turn. Dodge. When you take the dodge action, instead of attacking, you focus on avoiding attacks. Until the start of your next turn, attacks against you are made with disadvantage if you can see the attacker, and you make a dexterity saving throws with advantage. You cannot take the dodge action when your speed is reduced to 0. Or you may aid another creature. We were looking at help earlier. Okay, lots of different things to do. Hide. When you take the hide action, you make a dexterity stealth check. Press the attack. Before you take the attack action, you can use a bonus attack to designate one creature within your reach who is not currently the target of a press the attack action. Until the beginning of your next turn, your melee attacks against that creature gain an expertise die, and all attacks against you are made with advantage. You cannot gain expertise dice this way on attacks made with disadvantage. When you press the attack, your target can use its reaction to fall back. I want to look up fall back. But so what does that mean? This is like an all-in attack action before you take the attack action. You can use a bonus action to designate one creature within your reach, which is not currently the target of a press the attack action. Until the beginning of your next turn, your melee attacks against that creature gain an expertise die, and all attacks against you are made with advantage. So I guess that is like all-out attack. Oh, fall back. Here's it is up here. When you press the attack, your target can use its reaction to fall back. Whenever a creature takes the press the attack action against you, you can use your reaction to yield ground. You move backwards 5 feet, and your attacker does not gain an expertise die against you from using press the attack. As part of the action, your attacker can now move 5 feet toward you. Neither you nor the attacker provoke opportunity attacks from this movement. A creature using its rage class feature cannot choose to fall back. Now, I like this, and it's kind of difficult to do if you're not using a grid. But this reminds me of giving ground in GURPS, because if you're willing to step back 1 yard in GURPS, then you can gain a bonus to your defense by giving ground. I like that because it makes the battlefield more dynamic. Like most people will choose to do that. Like, okay, well, and it makes combat more fluid when you're looking at what's going on the table. Everything's not the result of like deliberate moving here, and then when you get up to each other, you just stand there and your figures don't move until one of the other person dies. There's still an organic movement to that because most of the time people do choose to fall back and get the bonus. But there are times when you can't do that. If you're trying to defend a pass or stand between somebody else in the spellcaster or something like that, situations where you can't fall back, you have to hold your ground. So that makes another interesting choice. So this is specifically in a response to this pressing the attack action. This seems to be more difficult to do if you are using a zone-based system. But I do like having that option as far as combat. I think it makes combat more dynamic and organic. Yeah, Micah's talking about printing off the abilities for reference, but in addition to skill abilities, there are freeform options and mechanics as well. I like that being knocked prone has an effect here on the next round. It's useless in 5e raw. Micah says, it isn't useless in 5e raw. It does affect advantage or disadvantage attacking from position or being attacked while in it, but isn't significant enough. That I agree. Hate attacks of opportunity, Rhino says. It's an antique form of wargaming. Gaming locks up the battlefield and does not add realism. I'm thinking in terms of the different ways that you can do that. Because, so in Pathfinder, only the martial classes get attacks of opportunity. And there are certain things that would provoke an attack of opportunity against you. And one of them is something like doing some type of manipulation of an object within melee range of a fighter. But if that manipulation takes more than 1 turn, you might be able to drop attacks of opportunity because that person is over there trying to manipulate some object like bind somebody's wounds or something like that. And they can just be attacked. And if they're attacked, and especially if that attack is successful, maybe maybe that's disruptive. And it's carrying on. It seems like it's on first glance thinking here, it's a way to deal with actions that might otherwise take more than 1 turn and could be disruptive in a way that's all being done on 1 turn. But maybe if you're going over more than 1 turn with actions, maybe that's a situation where you can just absolutely dispense with it. We'll see. Micah says, yeah, I like the press the attack and fall back. The Last Phoenix says, I actually like them, but maybe it's because I like tactical gameplay with engaging and disengaging. So Micah says, attacks of opportunity do make sense tactically. However, I will agree that certain things should affect it more greatly, such as already being under attack and trying to dodge. Okay, we can ready an action, then choose an action that you will take in response to that trigger. When a trigger occurs, you can use your reaction immediately after, or you can decide to ignore the trigger, wasting your ready action. Search. Sprint. When you take the sprint action, you focused all of your movement on moving as fast as possible, all of your effort on moving as fast as possible. You may not take any other actions, bonus actions, or reactions other than your speed for that turn. If you are encumbered, your speed is if you're unencumbered, your speed is quadrupled. So how is this different from dash? Dash, your speed is doubled for the current turn. Sprinting, speed is quadrupled for one turn. If you are encumbered or wearing heavy armor, your speed is tripled for one turn. You must sprint in a straight line each turn, although you can change direction each time you sprint. You may sprint for a number of turns equal to your Constitution modifier. Each turn you sprint after that, you make a Constitution athletics check, DC 10 plus 1 on a previous check made in the last minute. Or you suffer a level of fatigue and either tiredness for a minor sprain or injury. You recover fatigue suffered from sprinting 1 minute after you stop sprinting. You cannot sprint if you are suffering from one or more level of fatigue. Attacks against you are made with advantage until the start of your next turn. Tumbling. You may use a tumble to move through a hostile target space by deftly diving or rolling past. You can always choose to disarm, grapple, knock down, overrun, or shove as a basic maneuver instead of making an attack. See, I'm wondering, is there some way to make this more elegant? I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here. But that kind of goes for 5th edition as well. Using an object, making an attack. I bet this is pretty basic 5th edition stuff. Select a target, apply modifiers, resolve the attack. You make your attack roll rolling D20 and applying your modifier with the bonuses or penalties from above. On a hit, you roll damage and apply your effects from the attack. So an attack roll is a D20 plus the appropriate modifiers, usually proficiency bonus and either strength or dexterity. If the total of the roll plus the modifiers equal to or exceeds the armor class, the attack hits. Objects and monsters have their own AC scores, while the character's AC is determined by their armor, ability scores, features, traits, and magic items. A natural 20 on an attack roll is a critical hit and is always successful. On the flip side, rolling a natural 1 as an attack roll is considered a critical fumble and always misses. All right. Ranged attacks. So let's see exactly what they say about opportunity attacks since we are talking about that. Rhino is still arguing against them. Oh, lots of people are talking about that now. Opportunity attacks make sense in the context of a backline of Legion withdrawing while the front is guarding their retreat. It does not make sense when fighting in open areas man-to-man. Hate. Stephen McAllister. The thing about attacks of opportunity to me is that the best option you got to escape is a dash, but it feels unnatural because you haven't you have an action to avoid opportunity attacks. So is this taking 5th edition and turning it into 3.5-ish? I never played 3.5. Yeah, so there are no attack of opportunities in 5th edition, right? So this does seem like something that's been added back in for 3.5. If you're in the middle of nowhere next to a foe and you turn and run, they're going to stab you in the back if they can. This is an attack of opportunity in a nutshell. So Micah says, sort of, essentially seems very like 5.375E, a bit of 5E, a bit of 3.5, and Pathfinder First Edition. Yeah, please do hit the like button if you are here. Thank you for reminding me, Vision. Please do hit the like button and subscribe if you're not already. We only have about 9.4% of the people who watch subscribe. So if you're here and are enjoying it, please do hit the like button and subscribe. Oh, 5E has opportunity attacks? Why don't I remember that? I guess because of the number of stuff I've been reading. It's actually been a while since I played a 5E game. So they say, here's opportunity attacks here. The melee attack rolls you make are not the round. The melee attack rolls you make are not the only times a character swings their weapon in a round. There are feints, parries, and other movements that are not rolled. As such, if someone drops their guard, they open themselves up to an attack. Such an attack is called an opportunity attack. You can use your reaction as an attempt to opportunity attack when a hostile creature that you can see moves out of your reach. An opportunity attack is a single melee attack against the provoking creature made immediately before the creature leaves your reach. The disengage action can be used to avoid provoking opportunity attacks. Movement through teleportation does not provoke opportunity attacks, and unless otherwise noted, neither does forcing movement, such as when you are pushed away by a creature or an effect, or if you move past a creature while falling. So our opportunity attacks seem rather constrained here. I actually like, if you're going to have them, I think I'm preferring what Pathfinder 2nd E is doing with them. Because there's a lot more things that can... This is just moving out of somebody's range. Like, I would like to... Like, if you start casting a spell, for instance, then I would... Or you start binding somebody's wounds. So I think that if you're going to have attacks of opportunity, it seems like the Pathfinder 2nd edition system is more sophisticated. Okay, we're talking about boxing over here, and discuss this interesting discussion. Ever seen a boxing match or Olympic fencing? They're moving in and out of striking zones constantly. Maybe they're using the disengage action. And someone else could attack from the back if there are more enemies than just the one you're facing. The Last Phoenix says that's what 5-foot step is for in 3.5. Short movement to get out of the striking zone while keeping attention on the target. Just moving around exposes you to the enemy. Yeah, I remember 5-foot step did help you with that. Yay for backstabbing, Robert says. Robert, you posted a bunch of material in the Ravenkeep Discord. I don't know if you saw. I went through it all yesterday and took a lot of notes. If Kyle agrees to an interview, I took a lot of notes on my interview notes page because of that. I really appreciate it. That was very helpful and very thorough. Yeah, Micah says, yeah, disengage allows more than 5 feet, but in 5e, you could always move within 5 feet and be fine. Easier to contact with someone trying to hit you than running away unless you're shooting. Ever see a boxing match where a boxer will not join in exchange? They have a lower number of blows landed. Robert says, I love to see many of these things were already accounted for in many ways in first edition and love to see how it translates across editions. Two-weapon fighting. Damage and recovery. All right, let's see what's going on here. Damage and recovery. Those who seek adventure do so knowing that they face the risk of injury or death. You fall into sharpened stakes of a cunning pit trap, the scimitar swung recklessly by the dastardly pirate, a druid summoning strike lightning from a clear sky. Okay, so hit points. A hit point represents a creature's stamina, willpower, and luck. So not only are we doing inflationary hit points here, but in general, we also have very vague and abstract hit points or what exactly that represents. Which means I always think it's weird to say luck, especially when you've got a cleric casting Cure Light Wounds. Mechanically, that just restores hit points. But why would, curing somebody's wounds or cure wounds restore your luck? Don't know. And how would you know if somebody's luck is depleted if you've got a cure wound spell? But that just seems to be a standard way about how this kind of goes in these 5th edition based games or Dungeons and Dragons based games in general. A creature's current hit points can be any number from their hit point maximum down to 0. A creature loses hit points when it takes damage, subtracting damage value from current hit points. When a character loses hit points, they aren't necessarily taking physical harm. Rather, they are otherwise avoiding fatal blows, and their ability to keep doing so is whittled away as they take further damage and their hit points decrease. Loss of hit points has no effect on a creature's capabilities until it drops to 0 hit points. Damage rolls. Weapons, spells, and monster attacks specify this. Okay. When attacking with a weapon, add your ability modifier. The same modifier is used for your attack roll to damage. Critical hits. All right. When you score a critical hit, you double the attack's damage against the target, including static modifiers. You double the attack's damage, so I guess that is after the roll. A critical hit can be turned into a regular hit by sacrificing an equipped shield. Oh, okay. So a critical hit can be turned into a regular hit by sacrificing an equipped shield or choosing to suffer fatigue. See fatigue below. Damage types. I wonder if damage types are more significant. Damage types are another one of those things that, yeah, it's in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, but it's not really all that significant, right? Another one of those things. It seems like 5th edition has several things like that. I was talking about encumbrance on a video last time. That, yeah, it's here, but it also doesn't really do much. So if you're looking for it, it's here. But so, okay, so attacks, weapons, harmful spells, and other damage effects deal different types of damage, though damage types have no rules of their own. Other rules rely on damage types. Acid, bludgeoning, cold, fire, force, lightning, necrotic, piercing, poison, psychic, radiant, slashing, thunder. No sonic? Ongoing damage, vulnerability, resistance, and immunity. Massive damage and instant death. Massive damage can injure or kill you instantly. If you are reduced to 0 hit points after taking an amount of damage equal to or greater than 20, plus triple your character level. So if you are reduced to 0 hit points after taking an amount of damage equal to or greater than 20, plus triple your character's level, you make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw. On a failure, you die instantly, while on a successful result, you live, but suffer 1 level of fatigue and 1 level of strife, which we still haven't figured out what strife is yet. For example, an 8th level sorcerer with 25 hit points is subjected to a black dragon's acid breath, taking 54 acid damage and being reduced to 0 hit points. Because they took massive damage, 44 or more in this case. So that would be 16, 25 plus, 20 plus 16. No, triple the character's level. So that's why we're up here at 44. Okay, so triple, not double, triple the character's level. So because they took massive damage, 44 or more, the sorcerer must succeed a DC 15 Constitution saving throw to avoid instant death. If the sorcerer had succeeded their saving throw against the breath weapon to take half as much damage, or they had resistance to acid damage, they would only taken 27 points of damage, and although still reduced to 0 hit points, wouldn't have taken massive damage. Dropping to 0 hit points. Oh, good. We're coming up on fatigue here. Doomed. Are we coming up on strife? I have no idea. Okay, so we still don't have strife in here. We haven't found it yet. Okay, 0 hit points, you become unconscious. We got death saving throws. Whenever you start your turn with 0 hit points and you're not stable, you are dying, and you must make a special saving throw called a death saving throw to determine whether or not you slip closer to death or cling to life. Unlike other saving throws, a death saving throw isn't tied to an ability score, but can be affected by spells or features that modify your chance. So roll a d20. If the roll is 10 or higher, you succeed. Otherwise, you fail. On your third failure, you die. Okay, sounds like 5e. Rolling a 1 or 20. When you make a death saving throw and roll a natural 1, you suffer 1 level of fatigue and 1 level of strife. If you roll a natural 20, you regain 1 hit point, immediately regain consciousness, and are able to take the rest of your turn. being attacked at 0 hit points. If you take damage from attack while you're on 0 hit points, the attacker can choose to make you suffer a death saving throw failure, 1 level of fatigue, or 1 level of strife. If you take any other damage while you're at 0 hit points, you suffer a death saving throw failure and might inflict fatigue and strife at the Game Master's adjudication. Micah says, yeah, HP as it is in 5e in a lot of games is odd. I used it in the first to third alpha of the Farad system, though a fish scale between HP and endurance. I prefer how it changed for 4th. And I don't know anything about 4th edition. Oh, Thunder is Sonic in 5th edition and evidently here too. Thunder, the resonant power of storm and concussive bursts of sound, such as from the Thunder Wave spell, each deals thunder damage. Okay, so thunder damage. Yeah, okay. Luck depleted, Stray says. Maybe we need that boon dice. Drink Witch's Brew coffee. Oh, low on HP. Try Cultist coffee. Yes, I still have. If you do want, I guess I should say that I have a few of the mugs left. So this I'm drinking from Witch's Brew today. We've got the logos for Witch's Brew and Cultist coffee that look like spoofs of the Starbucks logo. And I still have a few of them left. I ship them personally. I've got them sitting in here in the other room here. But I'm not going to reorder more mugs. So if you do want mugs over there at Ravenkeep, please do check that out. I will ship it up, pack it up, and ship it to you personally. I want to see Michael Bay damage type. Boom, damage. The Last Phoenix says, I don't like massive damage. It serves no purpose but to gimp a character, like save or die spells, except against those that can death ward. Okay, let's talk about that. We're going to go a little bit longer here today. I got other things to do, but I want to get through more of this here, and then we'll go. But I think this is an important discussion to have because it seems like it's patching something that should be, that to me, it seems like a patch on the inflationary hit point system. That assuming you're using these really abstract hit points, like we just were talking about here, and you're going to be using an inflationary hit point system, and hit points are just going to be going up and up and up, eventually you get to a point where you're like, God, didn't that, well, like the dragon's breath or something like this, or just falling off this giant cliff, doesn't that just kill you? So it seems like then putting on the rules for massive damage is a patch. And we did actually try to use that or recommend something like that be used in the Journey Through the Tree of Sorrows RPG that I was working on with David, and I wrote for David when I was with Infinite Black, which hopefully will come out one day. But we did try to incorporate that because we had decided to use 5th edition for reasons, for a bunch of different reasons. So the first was that, well, it's familiar to everybody, and we've got the SRD, and we don't have to come up with our own system. But that was one of the things that I was using and citing as an example of something that I didn't really like about 5th edition and might not seem right if you're trying to fight Cthulhu or something. So I see it as a patch on an inflationary abstract hit point system. So I see its purpose. And it does give you something else to worry about, that, hey, maybe if I just am blasted by that dragon, I'm going to die. But I think I would prefer, if I'm starting from scratch, I would prefer to fix that with our hit points and damage system to begin with. And then it would just be, then massive death from massive damage would just be built in, because it would be like losing all of your hit points in one gigantic swing. So I see what it's trying to do, but it seems like a Band-Aid. Rhino says, instant death rules are overly complicated. 12th level instant death save happens at 20 plus 36 equals 56 HP. Exploding dice? Oh, wait. So Stray's talking about exploding dice. Oh, yes. Boom, damage. Should damage dice explode? In certain situations, I can definitely get behind exploding dice. Micah says, I mean, the massive damage thing is only if you hit 0 instead of anything or above. 5e has that if you take more than your full HP maximum, you die instantly. That's a bit more grim, but similar. Right, yeah, in this, you still also have to hit 0 hit points, right? Yeah, so if you take your damage threshold, hey, there's like system shock, right? Wasn't there like a system shock roll in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons for that kind of thing? So if you could take it that amount of damage, but if you still didn't hit 0 in this game, you're still fine. But it seems like instant system shock roll. I like the chance of instant death, but it should be intuitive. Yeah, what Rhino you were talking about right up here is that this is something that has to be calculated a lot. If you're not dealing with, like, I might not be dealing with levels either, but if you're dealing with something that's on a simpler level, you want it to be something that you can remember. And wait, is this number that? Did it happen or did it not happen? Hold on, let me calculate this new number for everybody. We got a different number and stuff. Call of Cthulhu has massive energies at 1/2 HP loss to save versus losing consciousness. Micah says, like, I hate how falling damage caps in 5e. It is also capped here. Sure, a low chance of survival past a certain point, but without mitigating circumstances, terminal velocity is equal way higher. Well, see, I was wondering how they calculated that. Because, like, once you reach terminal velocity, like, how long does that take to fall and where should that cap? And I was wondering if they used that as the cap. I didn't try to calculate it when we went by here. Micah says, yeah, that makes sense, Rhino. Even if not dying yet, you're out for however long. Millmaster says, I grew up with Palladium mega damage weapons. Oh, you're a human that got hit with a mega damage weapon? Yeah, bye. No save necessary. Rhino says that OD&D had inflationary hit points because in that setting, characters became gods or demon lords if you got high enough level. It makes sense in Mystara, not in other settings. Stray says, one of my players tried to catch a comet. It was like a wheelchair jousting a dump truck. All right, let's see where we are. So, we were just at okay, so let's go stabilizing. So let's finish up with our damage and stuff. So stabilizing a creature. Healing a creature at 0 hit points is the best way to save it. Where healing is unavailable, the creature can be stabilized so that it doesn't die due to failed saving throws. As an action, you could administer first aid to an unconscious creature to attempt to stabilize them with a DC 15 Wisdom Medicine check. So a relatively easy Wisdom Medicine check. A stable creature doesn't make death saving throws even though it has 0 hit points, but it does remain unconscious. The creature stops being stable and must start making death saving throws again if it takes any damage. Okay, let's see what fatigue. Okay, and then healing and recovery. We're on damage. Let's go to that. Sometimes during an encounter, a creature will gain an injury representing a serious wound. So sometimes during an encounter, a creature will gain an injury representing a serious wound, and this is represented as fatigue. Sometimes you will gain an injury. That injury is represented as a serious wound. This, meaning that serious wound, is represented by fatigue. Everybody got that chain? Suffering fatigue. I would not have connected fatigue to suffering a serious wound. But okay, you gain a level of fatigue when each time you take damage that makes you fall unconscious during a character. This sounds like the wounded condition then, like in Pathfinder. You take a critical hit while at 0 hit points. When you take a critical hit, you can use your reaction to block it, turning the critical hit into a regular hit and suffering a level of fatigue. If you have a shield, you can sacrifice your shield instead. So if you suffer a critical hit, you can use your reaction to block it, turning the critical hit into a regular hit and suffering 1 level of fatigue, or you can sacrifice a shield. Once you have turned a critical hit into a regular hit in this way, you cannot do so again until you finish a short or long rest. Does that include sacrificing a shield? If you've got a shield, can you sacrifice a shield and then also turn the critical hit into a regular hit in this way before you finish a short or long rest? The effect of fatigue gained during combat are only felt if the effects of fatigue gained during combat are only felt after the encounter in which they are inflicted has ended. During the heat of battle, it is easy to fight on without realizing the extent of your injuries. A creature can survive multiple such injuries and continue adventuring. However, injuries do not need to be ignored lightly. If you gain 5 levels of fatigue, you are doomed to die. I wonder why they're using fatigued for this. Why not using injured for this? What is strife? We still got to figure that out. If you suffer 5 levels of fatigue, you are doomed to die. See below. As your combined injuries mean you're beyond the aid of all but the most powerful healing magics. doomed. A doomed character has sustained damage to their body, mind, or spirit that puts them beyond the help of normal recovery and lesser magic. While the symptoms of a doomed character's injuries might be removed, only powerful spells such as regeneration or resurrection can spare it from death or restore it to life. Suffering the effects of 7 or more levels of fatigue is one way to become doomed. However, at the narrator's discretion, a creature might become doomed for any other reasons. Wait, this says suffering the effects of 7 or more levels of fatigue is one way to become doomed. This says up here, it says if you gain 5 levels of fatigue, you are doomed to die. What effect does that have? Okay, more details. Okay, so more, I got to look someplace else. All right, let's go ahead and look at that. 1:6:16. Like that would have been a good place, I think, to put that information, even if you also have it in your appendix for condition reference. Doomed. A doomed character dies at a time determined by the narrator or within 13 2d12 hours. A doomed creature continues to be doomed even after it dies. Magic equivalent to a 7th level or higher spell can remove the doomed condition, such as regenerate cast on a living creature, resurrection, true resurrection, or wish. Okay, so doomed, this would be an important thing to put up there on that other page. A doomed character dies at a time determined by the narrator or within 13 2d12 hours. That's an important thing to know. So let's go back up here to where that was. Probably faster to get to it through the index. Fatigue, death, and doom. So this says, if you gain 5 levels of fatigue, which fatigue are representing injuries, you are doomed to die. And that just means you will die in 2d12 hours, and there's nothing you can do about it except for magic of 7th level. Oh, strife is in the conditions. Okay, let's go take a look at that. Thank you, Stephen. Doomed, I think. Oh, snap. Yeah. So, okay, so let's take a look at strife, because it says strife. We had all of it. So it's 619. Let's take a look at what strife is. Because we can gain levels of strife. Strife and mental effects. Okay, mental stress effects. Strife. Here is strife. The halfling pushed on, the arch-lich Azkaroth's presence diminishing their spirit as they trudged across the desolate landscape toward the Dark Lord's lair. Each of them could feel the lich's will tugging at their minds, and every ounce of their courage they had to put one foot in front of the other. Intense study of potent arcana, truly rigorous intellectual challenges, and psychologically demanding magics can increase one's strife. Strife represents corruption, despair, fear, loss of resolve, and other mental factors which gradually undo a creature's very soul. A creature which reaches the 7th level of the strife track suffers a special, permanent effect, which is either randomly selected or determined by the narrator. This might involve the creature shutting down completely or being impacted in such a way that it is changed forever. Is that what this is? Table fatigue up here. So so this says 7th level becomes doomed. So this right here, we got another, it's not 5th level, 5 levels. We got, I think something probably would be errated in this book, because this says that when you hit 7 levels of fatigue, you are doomed. So level 1 cannot sprint. Level 2, disadvantage on strength, dexterity, and constitution checks. 3, speed halved and unable to maintain fast travel pace. 4, disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws using strength, dexterity, and constitution, unable to maintain normal travel pace. 5, hit dice halved. 6, speed reduced to 5 feet and unable to maintain a slow travel pace. And then 7, you are doomed, which meant you were going to die in 2d12 hours. Strife, disadvantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma checks, disadvantage on concentration checks at 2. 1 can only take a bonus action or action each turn, not both. 5 is disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws using intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. 5, suffer the effect of a randomly determined short-term mental stress effect. 6, cannot cast spells but can cast cantrips. 7, suffer the effects of a randomly determined long-term mental stress effect. Mental stress a creature may only have one mental stress effect at a time. A long-term effect overrides a short-term effect. If 2 effects are of equal strength, the most recent effect replaces the older one. Strife and mental stress effects. When a creature suffers its 5th level of strife, it gains a short-term mental stress effect. When it suffers its 7th level of strife, it gains a long-term mental stress effect. Short-term mental stress effects include bewildered, we got a D10 roll, bewildered, cowed, distraught, enraged, flippant, musical, obsessed, on edge, sleepless, or terrorized. So these are all like special conditions or something that all have, what is musical? A musical creature has temporarily taken leave of social norms after a deep shock of a strange encounter. Instead of talking, it now sporadically sings its thoughts during conversation, giving it disadvantage on deception, intimidation, and stealth checks, but advantage on performance checks. Okay, long-term stress effects include covetous, distorted perceptions, hopeless, inimical, memory wipe, murderous, peacekeeping, phobia, superstitious, or 10, suspicious. Indefinite mental stress. So that's why, let's look at our character sheet down here. So we've got fatigue and strife. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we got 7 different check boxes here for fatigue and strife. Seems like fatigue should be wounds. But I guess there are other ways to get, I guess it's because it seemed like it was saying that was primarily done through wounds. Yeah, it sounded exactly like Sauron's gaze. Well, all right. So I guess we didn't get all the way through through this, but I think actually let's check on restoring hit points. Let me go back up and talk about how we restore hit points, so we can kind of conclude our section on damage. Then we'll come back and take a look at races and classes next time. Oh, we were told there was some good stuff in spellcasting though. So maybe we'll look at that tomorrow as well. Healing and recovery then. Damage that doesn't kill you isn't permanent, and even death can be a reversal of powerful magic. Rest can be restore a creature's hit points, and magic means such as cure wounds and a potion of healing can remove damage in an instant. Anytime a creature receives healing, hit points are regained and added to the current amount. Actually, I think we did look at like rest. So we did talk about rest, short rests with recovering hit dice and hit a certain number of hit dice, and then long rests with getting your hit dice back. Recovering from fatigue. Recovering from fatigue is more difficult than restoring hit points. A creature can recover from the initial level of fatigue during a long rest anywhere, but recovering from 2 or more levels of fatigue requires long rest at a haven. So it seems like even though we're doing inflationary hit points, it seems like they're trying to do more permanent stuff with this whole fatigue mechanic. So a creature can recover from the initial level of fatigue during a long rest anywhere, but recovering from 2 or more levels of fatigue requires a long rest at a haven. So these are types of environments. Pathfinder had this. Looks like the bridge of Khazad-dûm. So cavernous, it tells you things that can happen inside different types of environments, forested, frigid. I do like that. So this gives you like mechanical ideas, like things that here's, if you're fighting in this type of environment, here's some stuff that can help you out with your world actions. I do like that. Summoning creatures. Rolling movement. Races, chases, horseback embraces. Actions alongside a train car and falling down the side of a building all come with the assumption that the participant of the turn-based action scenario is moving. Within a rolling movement scenario, the narrator determines the direction and base speed of the scene per round, typically either 30 feet or the base spell of the second lowest of the active participant. Well, all right. Combat maneuvers? We didn't actually get through combat maneuvers? There's a lot of stuff in this book. All right. Let's see what people are saying in the comments here. Okay. All right. I think I'm about to wrap up here. So I do plan... Oh. I didn't know that was down. Sorry about that. Okay, well, I do plan on doing a Crafter's Corner tonight because I've got to paint. But I'm going to check out here, and I'm going to turn off the internet, and I'm going to try to work on story structure for about 5 hours. But I don't know when Crafter's Corner will be tonight. So if you've got stuff to work on, we can do that tonight. But I don't know when it will be. My dinner tonight is at 5:30. That's going to run long, I think, and then I've got to get back after that. Well, I don't know. So I'd say it's going to take me about 50-minute drive anyway to get back from dinner. So I can't see it being any earlier than 8 o'clock, but we will see. So I'll probably post that later. But then if we get started with it, well, so I might not actually post a schedule for it. We'll just see. But if I'm able to do it, then we will do it probably later tonight. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, everybody. I will see you hopefully tonight, but then otherwise tomorrow. May keep going with this tomorrow. Kind of want to complete this. All right. See you later, everybody, and grind on.